On the northeastern corner of the Caribbean island chain sits the gem of the West Indies, Santa Maria de la Antigua. Antigua, renowned for its sun, sea and sand. It has also become famously known as the Stonehenge of the Caribbean. Situated between the villages of Jennings, Ebenezer, and Bendel's stands Greencastle Hill, 596 feet of volcanic rocks and lemongrass. These volcanic rocks, which are too numerous to tally, naturally protrude out of the hill and are arranged to correspond to the astronomical clock, the solstices, the equinoxes, and the movements of the stars. This has been confirmed by Dr. Maura Imbert, an astroarchaeologist who conducted a study of several keystones on Greencastle Hill. I have visited Stonehenge in England and have seen for myself the methods utilized by the government and people of that nation to incorporate Stonehenge as a part of its economical development through tourism. Infrastructure has been built around the monument, parking lot, museum, and even a restaurant. And of course, thousands flock to the site during the solstices and equinoxes, and millions visit each year. If preserved, developed, and marketed properly, Greencastle Hill, the Stonehenge of the Caribbean, could attract millions as well, in numbers of persons as well as in dollars and pounds. It will provide employment as well as career opportunities for Antiguans, and it would add to the value and appreciation of Antigua internationally. Greencastle Hill has been used for decades as a site for the creation of aggregates and building materials. As it is already a national park, we as a nation should seriously consider Greencastle Hill and preserve it and utilize it, for it is our national treasure and a sacred hill. The nations and nature will applaud us for such actions. I thank you.
Holy are you.
What a wonderful Savior is Negus, my Lord. What a wonderful Savior to me. Oh, give thanks for your presence. Of course, you know this is the shock of the hour. Honorable Priest Isaac here with you, glorifying the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards Melchizedek in flesh. Oh, give thanks continually for such a saintly and holy order that governs our souls and orders and keeps our spirit. What a joy, you know. For me personally, what a joy that I could be a part of such a functioning, Congress, within the realms of spirituality. Let Emperor Haile Selassie I be praised in all doings and sayings, the mighty 3 in 1, 1 in 3. Holy Emmanuel I Selassie I Jah Rastafari. We intend to definitely bring you a wonderful edition of the shock of the hour for this evening. And this evening, I want to touch upon something that how should I put this now? We're going to be dealing with the whole aspect of the balance of the male and the female. Well, actually, we're just going to be highlighting, and maybe just is not the word, but we will be highlighting the just, Queen Hatshepsut of the Kemetic tradition, the ancient Egyptian dynastic period. And most of us would know of that mighty queen, and we would always hear of many people referring to her as a king. I have my differences with that because she's seen in the position of the king, wearing the king's garments, and of course the beard of the king. Now we're gonna go into this really with some surgical gloves, because what I'm highlighting here, I want to know when it comes to the whole balance of the male and the female in ancient Kemet. Is it as genuine as we think? And if not so, and maybe genuine, some may not say that to be the correct term, but is it exactly the way that we romanticize it then? And you may ask, what are you saying? I know some people are saying, I don't get it. Romanticizing and come on, break that down, man. What do you think this is? Well, this is what it is. Many of us, because we like to pick a side, as I said before, people like to tell me, pick a side. So a lot of us, because we have picked a side, we tend to say that look at the Bible. The Bible is very male chauvinistic. I've even heard ones that are practitioners of the Kemetic, if you say priesthood then, specify that you could only find a few women in the Bible that are highlighted. No, I think it's more than a few personally. But their argument is, for example, the books that have been named after them. So, of course, you have the book of Esther. Of course, you have the book of Ruth. This is in the modern day Bible now, the regular Bible, I should say. And of course, we know that there are gospels of even Mariam or Miriam. And then, as we said, Mariam now, these are high standing sisters in the Bible. She's seen as the woman amongst the woman. That's the sister of Moses and Aaron. And of course, we already went into the science of the Mariam of the Quran and how it's linked to the Miriam and the Mary of the New Testament. And we've done videos on that. I would always encourage the listeners and the watchers to, revisit these videos. Even myself, when I revisit them, I always get a kick. So, yeah, man, I'll be holding a joy. You want to see me listening to myself sometimes as if, I didn't know what I was going to say. But the point is that, the woman in the Bible, you hear them highlight the Sarah and, these different ones. But yet still, the Bible is considered to be very, not just like chauvinist, but extremely degrading to the woman. Now, there's some mystic scriptures that ones would highlight. I'm not really coming to highlight them as such, but I'm trying to balance now that those of us who would say that about the Bible, we would go to not only the African tradition, but we tend to go straight to the Kemetic tradition. Remember, I encounter this all the time. And the whole aspect of the male and the female balance, and how the king would have, I think it is one of the Ramesses would have built the statue of himself and making his wife the same size as himself. No, I don't think it's the Ramesses. I think it's one of the Amenhotep that did such, making his wife, I think it's Nefertiti, it might have been Akhenaten's father, making his wife, the same size as himself within the statue. Some even argue about the concept of the Aset figure, which is the woman figure, the empress figure, represents the sitting the throne where the kings sit on. Then the whole aspect of the system of law. It is a woman again. It is Ma'at. Look at Sekhmet, the lioness head goddess, is seen as the eyes of Ra. So me personally, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not Mr. Pick a side. I am Mr. Overstanding and knowledge and wise mind going into these discussions. But for some who may want to get it clarified, especially to look at it from another level, I said that what we would do tonight is to reason on the sister, the queen sister that has been seen as a king figure by many, that is Queen Hatshepsut. And let me say why I do not agree with that. Now, if we are really balanced, number one, we do not have to refer to her as a king. She is a queen. You understand? And this is something we're going to get into here. In fact, let me just reserve that point for the latter part of this reasoning tonight. Honorable Princess Acacia Menen, give thanks for your presence with us. Everything is wonderful and everything is blessed. Well, we actually have in our possession here a book, African Princess, that's the name of the book. It is really, you could say, produced for a children's book, and it's written by Joyce Hanson and illustrated by Laurie Mika. And that's African Princess. This book belongs to Princess Shekinah, by the way. You know, we have to, when we complete it, we have to make sure the Honorable Princess gets her wonderful manuscript back here. But interestingly, the first chapter in this book highlights some of the African queens. This chapter about Hatshepsut of Egypt, the princess who became a king. And it says here, on a hot day in 1922, there was great excitement at a dig site in what had once been the Egyptian city of Thebes. The archaeologists had stumbled upon a pit containing hundreds of pieces of ancient granite statues. Some of the pieces were as small as the gravel. Others were so huge that a crane was needed to lift them. Okay. The head archaeologist, that is Herbert E. Winlock, said later that that putting the fragments together was like working on 100 jigsaw puzzles, each one with pieces missing. The statues were of a pharaoh wearing the traditional kilt and crown, as well as the beard of an Egyptian ruler. But the pharaoh's face was that of a woman.
On some broken columns, the dig team found the name Hatshepsut written in hieroglyphs. Was this the same Hatshepsut who had reigned over Egypt around 1479 to 1457 BC? Herbert Winlock knew that her empty burial tomb had been found a few years earlier at Deir al-Bahri.
Deir el-Bahri, yeah.
Deir el-Bahri. But that their mummy had yet to be discovered. If this was the same Hatshepsut, he wondered, why had so many statues of her been destroyed? As the archaeologists studied and pondered, the story of an extraordinary woman began to emerge after thousands of years of silence.
So this is all taking place in 1922, similar time, discovery of Tutankhamun, and as was said there, the garments is that of the male ruler, but facial features of the woman, and these are statues and statuettes that we are coming across now, and because, as they say, the tomb was discovered, but the body was not there.
The crowds on the banks of the river cheered wildly as the Guild Royal barge came into view. Standing next to the pharaoh was a lovely young girl in white linen robes. It, his eldest daughter, the royal princess Hatshepsut. For Thutmose I, these trips along the Nile from Thebes to Memphis gave him opportunity to inspect his kingdom and see his people. We can imagine him pointing out to his daughter and great monuments, daughter, the great monuments and temples, teaching her about the world they lived in. With Hatshepsut's mother, the royal wife Amos, and other members of the royal family, they would stay temporary places called the mooring places of Pharaoh.
Yes, and so basically that is just a reenactment there. You know, the crowds of the bank will be cheering as the gilded barge came into view, and standing next to the pharaoh, according to what this is saying, paraphrasing, of course, from what the young princess read there. You know, the Hatshepsut, the royal princess, would be there with her father, the pharaoh Thutmose the first, and her royal mother, the royal wife, etc. Throughout her childhood, Hatshepsut had a very close relationship with her father. She was the only surviving child of Amos. Sadly, with the exception of Hatshepsut's half-brother, Thutmose II, all the pharaoh's other children had died. Hatshepsut and Thutmose II, who would someday marry and rule Egypt together, must have been a great comfort to the pharaoh. Egyptian royalty married close family members in order to keep the royal blood pure and to keep wealth and power within the ruling family. I've heard some people argue that this is symbolically speaking, and remember, these are not the Neter that we're speaking of. We're speaking of real people that live, you know what I mean, alive. And this is the history that goes with it. But anyway, let us continue, because we're going to speak of all what we are reading here, because, you know, it's an evaluation that we're making here. So Hatshepsut's carefree days and nights spent in the palace at Thebes ended when she became a teenager. Her beloved father died and her life changed completely. Historians are not certain whether Hatshepsut was older or younger than Thutmose II, but either way, she could not become the new pharaoh because she was a woman. Pharaohs were not only supreme rulers, they were also divine. Their right to rule came directly from the gods. The pharaoh was the head of all the priests, a very powerful group of men, and was the only person who was allowed to communicate directly with the gods. Next in line to be the new pharaoh was Hatshepsut's half-brother, Thutmose II. Princess Hatshepsut became his royal wife. Now, interestingly now, it says,
Hatshepsut probably accepted her marriage to Thutmose II as her duty. If she refused to marry him, the Theban royal family would be weakened and other people would try to claim the throne. She was 14 or 15 years old when she married, but like her father, Hatshepsut had a deep sense of responsibility. Childhood things were put aside and she gracefully stepped into her role as the king's great wife. Although she preferred the title God's wife of Amun. The title, the title of God's wife of Amun was politically important as it gave Hatshepsut influence over the powerful priests and allowed the royal family to control the vast wealth and property of Amun temples.
Now you see, as we go into this, you have to be taking note of the political atmosphere. Let's keep in mind, you have to be a thinker. This is critical thinking here. As I said, this is the university level here. This is critical thinking. The mystic vibration is critical thinking. Believe me. So the little we have of Hatshepsut, because we have a little, ain't no long biography, man. It's just a bit we working with, and we have formulated a story, and so we all have the basic idea of this African queen who those after her defaced her. You know that, and her name has been blotted out. At least this is what the Egyptologists have assumed. Those that came behind her destroyed her facial features from many of her statues, and as I said, etched out her name from many of the monuments that she herself had erected, as if ashamed of her rule, like Akhenaten and even Tutankhamun. Even she herself left out of records, as if she was never there. Wow. In the years that followed her marriage, the young queen had a daughter, Neferure, whom she loved very much. As well as being a mother, Hatshepsut seemed to have been a supportive queen and wife. She might have even shared, or might even have shared, power with her husband. Might. Is that pronounced? I pronounce that correct?
Neferure. I think the E is silent.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Unfortunately, after a short reign of 3 years, Thutmose II died, and his son, by a lesser wife, Thutmose III, became the new pharaoh. There was one serious problem. He was a small child. Hatshepsut was appointed queen regent. This was not an unusual situation. In the past, Egyptian queens had acted as regents, governing for their young sons or other male relatives. But Hatshepsut was different. She had learned how to rule from her father and had taken on some of her husband's royal duties. For her, it must have seemed as though the gods had intervened in her life. She was finally going to be given a chance to rule on her own, at least until the young pharaoh was old enough to govern. Although she was only 17 or 18 years when her husband died, imagine that, Hatshepsut was a successful ruler. She knew from her years at court how to deal with the important priests and nobles who helped run the country. Maybe it was a sign of things to come, but she had 2 obelisks built while she was queen regent. When these massive columns were completed 7 years later, she did something that had never been done before. Hatshepsut had herself crowned as the pharaoh. Now, of course, for those who are definitely, what do you call it, extremist. Now, there's nothing wrong being an extremist. If you're doing anything, go to the extreme. So for the fundamentalists and the extremists, yes, we understand that. We're just reading it as we see it. But when we speak of Pharaoh, some of these words are very corrupted words. Pharaoh and Egypt and even Abilik and some of these words. So that is why these things have been covered. We did a wonderful program maybe a month now. The Tekken, the Tekkenu, which is the Abilik. As I always like to say, the original Tekken is right here in Antigua, the Phallic of Geb. And of course, Greek Castle Hill we're speaking of, and of course at the same time, the Nesut or the king, not necessarily the pharaoh, the great house, these Greek terms, and then Egypt. I know some say it was taken from this and twist around to this and that, but I mean we can more work with a Tamari or Tamari or exactly which region we're talking about. If it's Kemet, then you understand the ancient land. But anyway, so we don't lose track of what we're saying. So we have the basic idea of Queen Hatshepsut and her position. And as I was saying before, because she really went against what appeared to be tradition there. She went against the grain. She went against what was according to law. It seemed like her. She had to crown herself, well, they say king, but I say she crowned herself queen, the monarch. The fact that you're stressing that she became king, that alone shows me there's some level of equality there right away. Now, is that just from a Western perspective, or is that what was taking place in the time of Hatshepsut? Now listen to me good. As I said, Queen Hatshepsut herself, in a very mystic position, according to this story, we don't have too much to eat off. We have only a little bit to play with, I should say. Just what I read, that's basically what people understand. You may try to make a whole movie about it, but you got to spice it up and add what you think is left out. But I think the main point here is this, that Queen Hatshepsut had to have been a real strategist. Listen to me. I don't think she gets the credit that she deserves. Because under these circumstances here, man, just go through all the dynastic period. It's not too many empresses you see ruling Kemet. In fact, this very book says she's one of very few that has ever, graced the throne. So for her to have done that throughout these thousands of years, and in fact the book says in its 3,000 year history, history, she is one of the only woman to have ever graced the throne. Not no queen regent, no, not no royal wife, but the monarch herself. But the monarch herself, man, this is a Rosa Parks moment, brother. But the monarch herself, this is not something that is seen in the history of the dynastic period that we speak of and glorify of Kemet. So what she did, whatever she had to do, she had to be shrewd. She had to be a strategist. She had to have had some level of military, a military mental. And as was even hinted in this book here, she had to have surrounded herself with the right people. Maybe she had to storm the walls and stick people up and say, I'm here now. It's your life or the crown. Yeah, I can see it. A real warrior queen. She couldn't just hold that crown, so she had to fight for that. Look at the stakes properly. Look at the stakes properly. She may have been older than Thutmose II, and yet still Thutmose II, who is not even the full brother, from another woman. All of these are really lesser wives, but yet still, she is the wife, she is the daughter of the queen, the wife of the king, but yet still, Tutmos II got the crown over her. Now listen, hey, listen to me. There's certain things that belong to a man and there's certain things that belong to a woman. I'm not into this crazy game that people like to play with the equal and this equal thing. You got to understand what the equal is all about. I mean, people just use this and go overboard. And I think we are equally made in a man. And the equality now, of course, in justice and everything, should be just that, equality, but every human being is not the same. I'm not even speaking of man and woman, just me and you and him and her. We're different. Some people can do things better than some. Some people were cut out and made for certain things. Nobody can run around that. And it's the same thing in general with male and female. We're fighting for this equal thing there. Equal, yes. But then they have other levels that people don't understand that a woman is made to do. They have other levels that people just don't understand that a man is made to do. Even the Almighty says it so in nature that the man is made for certain things and this is the man's job and this is what a man's supposed to do. And this is the woman's job in nature and this is what the woman's supposed to do. But we have become so liberal, you know. We try to fit everybody in everywhere. So we try to make the woman do the man thing and the man do the woman thing. That's what it's all about, brothers. That's what it's all about, sisters. Like it or like it not. But what I'm saying here now, in this case, was it wrong for a woman to rule? Like the ruler of the country? Because if we check the Ethiopian model, you know, the Queen of Sheba was the ruler. You know what I mean? I didn't think she have to put on a beard to do that. The Queen of Sheba was a ruler. You understand? Queen Zadi too was the Empress of Ethiopia. You see what I'm saying? I would admit the brothers or the male factor outnumbers the woman factor, but that only brings us back again to the reality that the man, if it's a king and queen kingdom, it is the king that rules. This is not, you know what I mean, okay, Queen Elizabeth ruling England. I understand. Yeah. That's a woman ruling there. They have Victoria, that was once ruling, and then they had a next Elizabeth, and then they had a Queen Mary. So you could see it in the British monarchy that there's not really no big hiccup for a woman or a female to be sitting on the throne. Alright. I'm only bringing this in this light, you know, because I am analyzing Kemet. You understand? When we speak about the male chauvinist aspect, especially when we are debating and comparing Kemet to the Bible, I'm very serious here. I just mentioned that even biblically, you have women that stand out clearly with the books Ruth and Esther, if we're going to say the writings thereof. But then at the same time, I highlighted that even in Kemet, ancient Kemet, the laws of Ma'at, you know, at the same time, and the eyes of Ra, being the woman Sekhmet, and Isis is even seen as the throne. I mean, I follow all that, man. That's where I am. This ain't pick a side. But what I want to know is this. Why is it that if Hatshepsut, who obviously is a great ruler, if it is her, if she's older than her brother, Why does she have to marry him just to keep her vibes? Why couldn't she become the queen? I mean, outside of the marriage, you know, why did he have to be the monarch, especially if she was older than him? And to make it worse now, when he died, some of the next Tutmos the third, a little boy, somewhere in the waiting there, he's going to be the next king. But because he's too young, you could just be the queen's regent for him. That's the title she was given. Why? Why did she have to go against the grain then? Why did she have to rebel to kick the regent off of the title queen's regent and become the queen? Or as people try to call her, the king. Why do we have to call her the king? We never say King Zaditu and the king of Sheba went to King Solomon. That's the queen of Sheba and the queen Zaditu, Empress Zaditu, the ruler of Ethiopia. So that is Empress tied to Hatshepsut, Queen Hatshepsut, not king and pharaoh. No, I don't know who it is trying to fancify this in our mind. You know, must be them Egyptologists, Petri and them fellas there. Because listen, Bojan, listen to I. If we're dealing with symbolism, to me the beard and to me a lot of them clothing that's where you're talking symbolism there. Remember Tutankhamun had on one slipper and his wife had on one slipper. It's so freaky they be. No, it is symbolic that to show you that the two of them were one. Akhenaten missing one eye and the statue of Nefertiti missing the other eye. What? To show you that they're one. You understand? I think the queen that was made the size of the king is Queen Tai, the wife of Amenhotep III. Yeah. So the false beard is symbolism, man. It's showing you that she is the supreme ruler. Yes, that is the outfit in the symbolic realms of the supreme ruler. And that is who she was, the monarch. The queen, not no king. She ain't no king. Don't play with my mind. She is a she. She's a queen. She's an empress. She is the monarch of Kemet, Hatshepsut. And to me, it is obvious that she had to fight for that position. It wasn't just given to her. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure the kings had to fight for their position too. Many of them. But in many cases, even when it's handed down, you still gotta battle your way through because you don't know how you go. People even trying to poison you. But it's obvious that she had to put up a bigger fight because even when the big man dead, not her father, her brother, husband business now, even when he dead now, some other little youth still coming up again from some lesser wife and some kind of lesser talking, and she still had to wait. You could see she was for constitutional reform. And she said, nah, I ain't waiting no more. And to me, it was as if she launched a coup and took over the parliament and took over the judicial system, the what you call them, arms of government, the legislative and the other thing there, executive and all of that. She run the show, give thanks to that. Yeah, that's exactly what the queen did, Queen Hatshepsut. So I'm just, asking us to take a better look. And to be honest, it's somewhat hypocritical to go down on the Bible. Yes, I mean, I'm not no Bible bunny really, but yet still at the same time, we in Ethiopia have one of the oldest versions of the Bible. I mean, I've done enough Bible program. I ain't gonna try crack up the Bible now and burst it up into different pieces and try to explain my outlook on it. But the point I'm making is that if you're gonna try to, wrestle with the Bible, talking about it's a chauvinist book and comparing it to our ancient tradition, you hear me clearly, our ancient tradition in Kemet, you just gotta have the balance. You have to understand, because as I said, Hatshepsut is like one in how many rulers that's a woman, you know what I mean, that sat on the throne and then had to battle so hard for it. And then it appears as if afterwards, and this book says something nice about that, you know. It appears as if afterwards that her name was definitely it etched out and destroyed. So what kind of respect is this for the woman? Now I personally, you know, somehow I never believed that anyone after her really did that. Remember the absence of Akhenaten's name and Tutankhamun's name, you know, to me is all again really esoteric. You know, we bust that down already. You don't know how it goes. Tutankhamun, Akhenaten in the chain of Tutankhamun and the two broken beads that became one. I'm sure you could follow that, the documentary 7 and other commentary that we have done. But you know, at the same time, I'm saying that her position is so different. We all know of the it is said that her jubilee, she kept her jubilee before the time, and she went south to Sudan to pay homage to her ancestors. She is well known for that as well. In fact, you know, let us see if we could just read a bit of this here, Honorable, quickly, so just give the people a quick idea. Don't go anywhere.
Hatshepsut became one of only a few female pharaohs to rule Egypt in 3,000 years of history. She must have been confident, smart, and fearless to take such a bold step.
Exactly.
She also must have had supporters among powerful nobles and priests at court. Hatshepsut have obviously earned their respect and confidence. This would not have been an easy thing to do. She would have had to convince them that a female pharaoh would not anger the gods and bring terrible hardships to the Egyptian people.
Yeah.
Hatshepsut's reign Hatshepsut's reign did not bring down the fury of the gods. Historians believe she ruled for 15 years, bringing peace and prosperity to her people. As a pharaoh, she is best known for her monuments at Karnak and the El Bahri.
Yeah, just if you could read that part there for us.
15 years into her reign, Hatshepsut once again broke with tradition. She celebrated her jubilee. Normally, a jubilee was held 30 years into a successful reign. After the celebration, Hatshepsut followed in her father's footsteps and had two more obelisks built and placed in front of the temple at Karnak. One still stands there today.
So you could see now, as I said, according to that book there, breaking with tradition to go to the south, as I said, where the ancestors are, and you know, we even made mention of that in an episode we did of the Mystic Vibration YouTube version several years ago. I think it is the origin of civilization that is talking about. So naturally, I would say naturally, within a structure, everything is the family. So to see a woman without a man, or the man without his woman, because of the royal family structure that we know in ancient Africa, is not too often you expect to find these situations. You know, even the Bible has certain things in place that if somebody dies, what they're supposed to do, and whichever brother come and take over the wife so the seed can continue. I mean, I would necessarily do it like how they're telling me to do it there, but I'm just showing you there's a structure set in place where the family reign. The point I'm making is, in a family structure, you have a king and a queen. And by nature, in that family structure, the king is the king. That is the head of the monarchy there. That's the king. I mean, you have, I think every queen would agree with that too. If you're a queen saying, no, it ain't so, you go, well, I mean, but yet, of course, at the same time, you have to understand the value of the queen. You understand? Because at the same time, it is both male and female. Remember, Haile Selassie got crowned with Empress Menen, and whatever role the king is playing on the front line within council and decision making and even strategizing, it must be balanced between male and female, king and queen. You know, once they are naturally balanced already going forward. That's how I see it anyway. You know, so to see the woman for whatever reason without the king and it is her opportunity to rule, well, she should rule. If it is her lineage to rule, she should rule. But I'm not in agreement with the Elizabeth style of ruling there. You know, she's the queen and Big Man is the prince. You know what I mean? Prince is Prince Philip, that's a husband, and the queen's husband is the prince. It kind of sounds strange to me, you know, it kind of something not too right. That's the example being set for us as a people. Wow, we are far to go, you know. Yeah, so I just decided I said I would have highlighted the Hatshepsut story. I think she's a greater military strategist and executioner than we even give her credit for. And it's obvious that she broke with some level of tradition. Even the emperors that we just said, crowning the empress, it is well known that that was not the tradition. You know, even though a woman may have been able to rule on the Ethiopian throne whenever she get a chance to do that, but yet still it was still not the tradition that the queen or the empress of the emperor got crowned with him on the same day. It was a couple of days after, at least 3 days in a lesser ceremony, that she got her coronation, you know. But the emperor broke that tradition and or brought it back, I should say, because it's from creation of the male getting crowned with the female. So anyway you look at it, in all the ancient traditions that we keep up, got the Bible for sure, eh? Don't get me wrong, the Bible for sure got its points that, to me, some of them points really, wow, when it comes to the woman. So the point is, all of these traditions have their little cracks within it, to me, straight up. You may disagree, but I'm just showing you what I see. That's why the emperor had to change that. That's why Hatshepsut had to fight so hard. You know what I mean? And the Bible speaks for itself. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, I, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks, you know, Honorable Princess. Thanks to the voicing and the reading for us. And just blessing everyone, you know, give thanks for your presence again. Of course, you know, I will encourage you to get a copy of Who is This King of Glory, you know. Of course, that is our two-part video lecture for this month. That's the video lecture for this month, Who is This King of Glory? The two-part video lecture for this month. And of course, you know, give thanks and praises continually for the life giver and the keeper of life. All good doings and saying going out throughout the world. And of course, if you're not an official subscriber, please subscribe to the Shock of the Hour, and definitely be getting your regular program on a daily level, you know, as it relates to the so-called weekday, the working days of the week, as they call it. Of course, the Shock of the Hour comes to you straight through your email. You get it in your inbox. All you have to do is email us and tell us you desire to subscribe to the Shock of the Hour, and we will definitely lead you in the right direction and tell you what to do. But remember, of course, for all those who will be getting, you know, the documentary, the video and the audio is available. But for those who are getting the video, being the video lecture for this month, the two-part video, being that of Who is This King of Glory, remember that you'll be also getting a blessing of a month's worth of the Shock of the Hour. So of course, you know, if you know your Bible and you do not know your history, the knowledge of your Bible will become a mystery, and it takes some real eyes to realize the real eyes that are amongst us. Do give thanks for the life giver and the keeper of life. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, I, Jah, Rastafari, blessed.